Early departure in the first match, so third choice fly half Tim Sweel will have Leinster's headlights on full beam in his eyes. Quins backup 10, by the way, Danny Kerr. A couple of potential European debutants held in reserve for Leinster, hooker Brian Byrne and winger Mick McGrath. Mark Lambert's fit to take his place on Quins' bench. Well, it's been a while since Ross Chisholm could look forward to playing in Europe. I thought Jamie Heaslip's interview with Craig was absolutely fascinating. He couldn't take his jersey off last Sunday for 45 minutes because he'd not done it justice. He'd not done himself justice. It hurt so much.
Yeah, I think when you... it's being good at winning is knowing and feeling the pain of losing, and no one more so than Jamie Heaslip. But as he said in the interview, he's got a chance to get back on the horse so quickly. Look at that intensity in his eyes.
Likewise, Joe Marler in his own exclusively different way last Sunday would have meant so much, would have done so much in different directions for both teams, Brian.
No, absolutely, and certainly in Jamie's case, nothing quite like professional rugby to affect your mood at a weekend. You can be an absolute nightmare to live with, or you can be the best person in the world. And obviously Joe, don't know his family life, his family situation, but I'm sure he was in a pretty upbeat mood all week, and I'm sure those Leinster boys will be looking at sending him home in less jovial spirits today.
Well, it's the midway point of pool matches in the first season of this Champions Cup. Just a gigantic weekend for the Irish provinces in particular, not just Leinster here, but Munster in Claremont tomorrow, Ulster in Llanelli, a match that you'll be able to watch with us. All of them on the edge, all of them needing wins. This one will be officiated by Romain Poit. First-hand view of Ireland's win here against South Africa last month. It's been 17 years since the quarterfinals in this competition went ahead without Irish involvement. There's that much on the line over the next 24 hours. That's what Leinster are playing for. That's the prize that Joe Marler and Quins are playing for. There's a big scalp to be taken here.
Quins.
There is, and you really set yourself up. Europe takes a rest after this weekend, of course. What shape will these two sides be in when the final whistle blows?
Jimmy Goffer gets us going on a dry, chilly, perfect night for European rugby. One of the great games of the season. We're hoping for one of the great games of the season. The first mistake is a Leinster knock-on, and it's taken on by Charlie Matthews. The breakdown, such a key part of what went on last weekend. Leinster second best, it would need to be said, and that's an area that needs to be turned around for them tonight.
It is indeed. It's such a crucial area for any side, but particularly for these two sides who love that continuity in their game, as we just see the early kick-off. Leinster will really be working hard on the breakdown and the scrum. Got turned over on too many occasions, as we see Sean Cronin just forcing the knock-on there.
First scrum. In an area that Harlequins probably of better in southwest London.
I think, Nick, with Mike Brown standing at first receiver there on the left, that's the beauty of having a left footer at fullback when your 10 is a right footer, is having two kicking options. And obviously everyone knows Mike Brown is very capable of running from everywhere. So just that setup is conducive to being able to load either side.
And I think as well, just taking a little bit of pressure off young Sweel as well. No Nick Evans, of course, and huge amounts of pressure on Tim Sweel. So Conor O'Shea quite rightly putting Mike Brown in there.
Quickly out for Kerr to hair over halfway with. Held on to it. Sweel was there. He's taking it over the 10-metre line. Fanning tried to hold him up. Gopeth has a little fish, but it's Quins' ball. It's Dave Ward, who was a monster as well last weekend. Kerr. There is Brown operating in the first receiver position. Marler, the captain. Kerr. Yard was offering himself. Instead, it's Robson. We'll come back for the penalty. 8 offside, Jamie Heaslip offside.
Yeah, he was kind of put his hands up and was asking Romain Poit whether he was okay to get the ball. He thought he was onside.
Time off.
Yeah, the problem was he was asking him, am I onside from an offside position?
Yeah, he was definitely offside.
Early problem for the Leinster number 8, early problem for the Quins number 8 as well. Nick Easter took a blow to the head. Acrobatic try, a dozen carries on the way to him being man of the match at the Stoop.
Well, he's certainly a player they won't want to lose for any part of this game. Chris Robshaw, of course, not able to play. Isn't it amazing how much space Danny Kerr suddenly found down that short side? We don't see the ball coming out so quickly from scrums anymore. We normally see this kind of repetition of number 8s holding it in and penalties being drawn, but great to see Danny Kerr running into the open space there.
It's a little replay of Jamie Heaslip offside. This is how Nick Easter hurt himself. He was rather pushed into Darragh Fanning. Certainly won his individual contest with his opposite number last week.
Just wonder whether Quins will want to keep him on the field rather than losing him to the concussion assessment.
Offside by 8. Can you move? Time back on.
They certainly won't take any chances with Nick Easter if there is any hint of potential concussion, but he's back on his feet and he's on his way. Joe Trayfoot, 20, is the back row replacement, but it doesn't look like he's going to be needed for the time being. And there's an early opportunity for Tim Swiel. First European start, 21-year-old, third choice fly half. He's only on loan from the Sharks in South Africa until February because Ben Bottika's injured. Here's a pill that if he pops it will settle the nerves early on. Off the shortest of run-ups, it was a bendy old one and it stays scoreless.
Interesting last week, I think David Flatman said he certainly is into energy conservation on his run-up. Sort of out of the Saravi handbook of how to take your run-up to kick a ball, but yeah, he'll have better ones than that the rest of this game, I'd imagine.
It's one of those that if you kick it, everyone says what a brilliant kicker you are.
Gopeth launches long back to the South African. He's actually qualified to play for England. He's keeping his cards open at the moment. Born in Taunton. Rob Carney. Back in the day when he used to do that as a schoolboy, playing GAA. Taken on by Jack McGrath. Expecting Cian Healy back for the Six Nations and all that he brings with the ball in hand. But in Healy's absence, Jack McGrath has grown and grown in stature as well. Kerr, chased by Dominic Ryan, the 7. Big night ahead for Ryan. His thigh injury is cleared up and Gopeth happy to find some distance. Brown not holding onto the ball for long. Tikaratuma, whose interception try, the difference between the two a week ago. Carney sensed some space, but perhaps get the angle that he wanted and straight instead into the arms of the fly half.
Hold, Quinn, stop you!
Madigan. New partnership for him in midfield today with Luke Fitzgerald. Interesting to see how that goes. And he ran towards the stand which he wanted to plant the ball into, and he did it, but it's such an enormous pitch that Quins can get on with it again. And here's Easter, who's up and running and fit and firing. Marler running into Cronin. Kerr behind Boss.
Stay blue.
And then Madigan finally into touch, and at the end of that we might yet get a line-up.
Well, I tell you what's very positive for Harlequins is the way that Danny Kerr, how brightly he started this game, looks really sharp. Of course, he's a man with a point to prove after the autumn international series. Just sniping away, finding those gaps. He's had one great run off the base of the scrum and some intelligent kicking, so good start from Danny Kerr.
I'm wondering, Lawrence, as well, is is Danny going to try and take some of the pressure off Tim, and maybe they're going to play some runners off 9 a bit more than 10 this week? He doesn't need that extra workload, so we know how good Danny is around the break.
You have 2 meters.
At the breakdown, see if he can bring his forwards into play off that.
This is Wallace with Kerr just
Once.
encouraging him on. Here he goes. George Lowe starting to play back-to-back matches again after the neck injury. Harlequins enjoying some early possession, some early time on the ball in Leinster's half, but the ball was lost forward off the feet of Matt Hopper. So on we go with Brown, winner here with England in the 2013 Six Nations. Kerr, Ward, Matthews running into Carney. Tuma having to take evasive action as he got rather slowly back to his feet. Here goes Lowe again. Early test of the defensive fabric of the men in blue. Now Sweel. Conor O'Shea telling us before the match that he's the quickest man in the squad. Now he's arrived.
I heard the exact same from Ugo Manya, and if you can outpass Ugo Manya, you've got some toe.
Marler. This is Collier winning the battle to start at tight head with Kyle Sinclair at the moment. The home supporters thinking their boys need some vocal support. Spend a lot of time in defence. Here goes Yard. Yard holding on to the ball a second too long, and there were players coming in as well off their feet to help him out.
Well, I was just about to say how well Quins has started. Every single player seeming to feel confident, get his hands on the ball early in the game, but just one loose pass set them back 20-30 yards. Great line speed from Leinster, and they win the turnover and the penalty.
Conor O'Shea's bunch really did pick some moment to produce what was comfortably the best performance of their season so far. Brian, you've got your eye on something.
Just the first scrum of the game. Obviously, seeing what happened last week, maybe Leinster thought they needed a scrummage at 6, and that's where Rhys Ruddock got stuck into the scrum. That's why Danny Kerr had a good path around the corner to bully Jimmy Gopperth on a 2-on-1, albeit Jimmy did extremely well.
Yes, you do see that so often now, Lawrence. You were one of the first to do it, the little meerkat over the top.
Well, you can't get caught at the back holding on, that's for sure. I didn't have enough pace to do that, not towards the end.
Boss. This is Cronin. First time for Leinster to really have a word or two of their own. Gopperth. And then Fitzgerald coming in on a cute little angle. Grazing Harlequins' defence rather than cutting it. The ball's been bouncing forward, so Carney will be brought back. But a word, Brian, about that partnership between Madigan and Fitzgerald in midfield, a bit like Harlequins finding a balance in the days post-U. There's been a bit of a conundrum for them this season.
I think when everyone saw the two together, they thought immediately they're going to play the ball to hand an awful lot. These two guys are very exciting footballers. They want to play with, as I said, with it in hand rather than to be chasing Gary Owens all day. So the two of them know each other quite well. They played 10 and 13 in school together for a year, and they'd be good friends. So you can imagine the small little chat that they're going to be having out there is going to be about how they're going to be able to unlock the Quins' defence.
And the change in balance of a midfield that suddenly has him in it as opposed to Gordon Darcy.
Lukey's a physically more imposing person. He's 6'1" or 2", probably another 5 kilos on Gordon Darcy. So straight away, you've got a guy that can carry, albeit Gordon fights above his size. You've got someone that's really a huge threat on the gain line. So he can mix his game up between having nice skills and being very physical.
Yeah, I think the point we hinted to before the game is whether those two, Madigan and Fitzgerald, can really sort of boss Gopperth inside them and try and get him playing a wee bit flatter. Hopefully they will tonight.
Let's see what Rhys Ruddock does off this scrum. It's actually Dominic Ryan closest to us at the moment, but we're going to see what their defensive tactics were because scrum went in early.
Interesting, Quins are, they struggled a little bit in the scrum in the Aviva Premiership, but in Europe, been very different for them. Really worked on what went wrong for them against Bath and came back very strongly last week and have started brightly again this evening.
Stay, stay, stay.
Carney carefully into touch, and once again,
Away, Quins!
Harlequins not waiting for the big blokes to lumber across. They want to get on with this. Again, beautifully taken by Carney.
All out.
Spun away by Kirshner. Kirshner again, acting at scrum half. Flicked away by Madigan to Fitzgerald, who gets a questioning little grubber kick through to Brown. 40,000 Leinster folks spotted the heels of Mike Brown going into touch and just made sure that the referee heard about it as well.
40,001.
Let's just have a little look at this. It was a nice little kick in, was coming quite quickly. Of course, Mike Brown could have easily let that go. Felt he had enough time. Oh, that's a tight call, isn't it?
It was the little left toe.
Six men.
The little left toe and 40,000 fans, I think.
Taken in by the
7
lighthouse that is
away.
Devon Toner. Ruddock's looking for it. He's taking a step backwards. He's going to do some hard yards here, you would have thought. He's got Toner behind him. Here goes Ruddock. He was one of those who really stood up firm last Sunday. Outstanding performance in a losing cause. This is Leinster's brightest position, the brightest opportunity. Gopper thought that was very quickly away by Madigan. It nearly worked. It might yet with Kirshner, who is a little electric eel of a right wing. Actually, not so little.
No diving on the
Flaps
ball.
over the
Fine,
top.
play on.
And that was ball that Quins were within their rights to go for, and Marler
Leave
gratefully
it.
gobbles it up.
Use it.
Brown,
Stay.
with his left boot, into the sanctuary of row A.
Well, we talked about it, didn't we, before the game? We talked about it as soon as kick-off, that breakdown situation, and Dave Ward just makes a real mess of that. First, Nick Easter goes in, and Dave Ward, quite rightly, goes through the middle, doesn't put his hands on the scrum half boss. He's perfectly entitled to do that as long as he comes through the middle and forces the turnover.
Open at the back.
Leinster touching up at the big stadium again, half a mile or so up the road from the Royal Dublin Showground. A regular haunt, hoping for a big result, and they're just beginning to ease themselves into this match for the first time, you sense, having had to absorb some early Quins pressure. Fitzgerald tiptoeing through midfield. Beasley waits for it. Boss holds onto it, runs into Marler. Taken on by Dominic Ryan. Thigh injuries cleared up to allow him to take his place ahead of Geordie Murphy, who isn't even in the squad this evening.
Just Nick, a lot of what Lawrence was alluding to before the game, the speed of the ruck is what's killed Leinster. And even here, they've probably gone through 5 or 6 phases and not really gone anywhere on the pitch. They need to get ball carriers aggressively on the line and not invite the Quins defence to identify one-off runners and make big hits.
Well, the other you're quite right, Brian. The other thing is they rely on that man, Jamie Heasley, and probably Sean Cronin to be those the guys who are really going to penetrate. And I know I keep harking on about it, but you put Sean O'Brien next to them and Cian Healy next to them, and it just gives you a few more options and a few more decisions for the defensive side to make.
It all leads to the kind of turnover statistics that Quins enjoyed last weekend.
Yeah, I mean, that's
part
huge.
of the root of Leinster's problem.
That's huge.
Last week,
I mean, we talked about there not being much between the sides last week, and there isn't really, but in that statistic, there you have it. And it's not just Chris Robshaw. I know he won half of them, but Dave Ward and Nick Easter, they're all working incredibly hard.
Here is Ward. At the end of all that, there wasn't a straight throw to come at the end of all that movement.
I was just about to say that the line-out was a real positive for Harlequins. I'm glad I didn't really, but
Monsieur Poit isn't one to get on the wrong side of his word is absolute gospel. So
Carney was up there buying the ticket. It's won by Easter. Kerr, Sweel, and low. Took the ball on the gain line. He was tackled by Ryan, and as a result he spilt it. Taken by Cronin.
Advantage over!
Gopeth. Carney back inside to Madigan, but the road was blocked.
Good double tackle, wasn't it, from Easter and Robson there?
This is Fitzgerald. Hotter was up quickly. Roddick dived into where he thought there might be some space behind him, but had been filled. Kane Douglas takes it to ground. Ryan, the link. Cronin with the charge. Ryan again. Now he's driven backwards by Marler. And McGrath was walloped by Robson. Both sides defensive sets, getting an early test here, but Heaslip half sensed some space and very nearly got through it. This is Fanning. Is living on the opposite wing tonight. He's on the right at the Stoop. Darcy's absence means that Kirshner comes in on the right, filling the hole left by Fitzgerald, who's in midfield, and at the end of all that, the ball was lost again.
Advantage over!
Both sides are enjoying plenty of ball time. Territory in promising areas without really finding any fluency at the moment.
Well, it's one of the characteristics of Leinster. They go through so many phases and put the defensive side under a lot of pressure, but so far Quins have really been very strong in that area. The kick just gone a little bit too far.
Carney makes sure that that was absolutely the case. Conor O'Shea back in his home city. He began his career at the Lansdowne club, and I think the old clubhouse is still away to the right, isn't it, Brett? It survived the Wreckers' Ball.
It is. It's beyond. It's just beside the 4G pitch over. What is it, behind the East Stand there? Yeah. So it's they've insisted on preserving a few of the old aspects to Lansdowne Road.
Lansdowne Road, the road away to our right.
Okay.
George Robson in the walls. Increasingly loud whispers around the club these days about the arrival next season of the Australian James Horwill. If that's the case, Robson will enjoy working with him.
He really will. He's been fantastic. Yeah, not physically the biggest second row, but I tell you what, he gives it everything he's got. Really, really good in the line out, causing all sorts of problems for the opposition line out as well. And he's been very physical. Made a great start to this game.
Hold it. Hold it.
What's been happening tackle-wise? Imagine that these will be quite high, these figures. 69 tackles in the opening 17 and a half, 18 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, what it shows is the continuity from both sides, really going through the phases. I mean, it's Brian said, great surface out there, really good conditions to keep ball in hand, and both sides really testing each other out.
Crutch.
But both are up to the task, very strong defensively. Only one try, of course, last week between the two sides.
Only 3 points.
Early engagement from Collier. Heaslip not hanging around. Boss. There goes Ryan. Test debut here against Georgia last month. Provides the link to Madigan, who played so well in those autumn tests. Goes Heaslip again. Boss. Starting tonight with a little bit of added physicality, perhaps at 9. Don't lack for physicality when Fanning's on the ball, top try scorer this season. So, the ball to several people. It was eventually picked up by Madigan. Roddick, prominent, mobile, industrious boulder last weekend. There goes Toner, who is more of a mountain than a boulder. It's in a familiar position of the pitch so far, creating any real dangerous-looking sparks in the 22 has been the issue.
Long way, 7.
Got a penalty, however. Jack has conceded it, and we will come back for that.
7. Preventing the support.
It's a feature of the game, Brian. We look at the teams statistically across Europe always have to make more tackles against Leinster than anybody else. Leinster with the ball in hand are supreme, but it's making something work off the back of it.
It's what you do with that ball, and we've never seen a quicker kicker of a ball.
No, the mark is there.
Get another go, or I wonder if this might be Jimmy Gopperth range. Gopperth tends to take the longer kicks, doesn't he?
He does, and obviously Jimmy's a pretty impressive kicker. He's got some good stats himself, but I think on this occasion he's going to nudge it into the corner.
First real mistake we've seen in the game there from Harlequins. They put the kick in, and Danny Kerr fielded the return and was sort of looking behind him, expecting the call to come from Mike Brown, and gave Leinster a free catch.
He got 21 there. That was inches. Inches short of going over the flag, wasn't it? That was close. But he wins a 5-metre line out.
6 men, 6.
When you stay strong on the look to see how it's going, you know it's tight.
Taken in by Toner. They are twisting. Ryan amongst those driving for the line, and he's still driving.
He's on the ground.
Well, Jack McGrath can have a conversation for as long as he likes with Romain
9 on the ground, could not play the ball.
I think your number 1 was pulling in 9 because he couldn't pulling in Danny Kerr.
9 on the ground, playing the ball and scoring.
How close were they to scoring there?
But yeah, you could tell certainly there were 4 phases lined up that everyone knew their role in all 4 phases, and then you have to play a little bit of heads-up football thereafter.
And that's the structure and pattern that, you know, the top sides have. You know, there's no doubt about it. Leinster have had it for a long time.
First points of the evening belong to Leinster, and they belong to Ian Madigan. 26 minutes. They lead by 3 points to 0. Little shot of Matt O'Connor. And we can talk to Guy Easterby, Leinster's manager. What have you made of this so far, Guy? Are you seeing any kind of pattern? What's it looking like down on the touchline with you to get themselves out of this corner, and they've not done it yet? It's Ruddock trying to strip it back.
Well, it's good work from Matt Hopper. First Mike Brown, Marlon Yard.
Care up to Madigan.
You have to have a bit of bravery, and there's good space out on that right-hand side.
Gopperth has Kirshner to the right. He was rather running into that space. What can Kirshner do with it? Oh, that was well taken by Lowe, who didn't quite have it to find the sanctuary of the touchline.
Just wondered whether he'd called the mark there. Lowe obviously didn't, because otherwise referee would have given him the call. He did well to make the touchline.
It's funny how the dynamic of calling the mark has changed over the years. Now you can catch it as you wish and then stick an arm up afterwards. There's no calling up the actual word mark. It seems to have changed drastically without any rule change in it.
I think he was falling to ground, otherwise the arm definitely would have come up there.
It's a 4-letter word there would have given Harlequins possession, as it is. The ball was lost forward. Sidestep shimmy from Fitzgerald. Nothing doing, so we'll come back for the Harlequins knock-on off the tail of the loose line-out.
Well, it was a double mistake, wasn't it? Initially Cronin misses his man at the back there, Cardinal Sin that close to the line. And you thought Quins had got out of jail, but they forced a knock-on as well. Look at this. Just delayed the throw, which might have just mistimed the jump. Quins have got it all to do again.
Angles.
Wallace, who was man of the match on the opening night against Cast, wearing the 7 shirt. He's in the 6 shirt again this evening, despite Rob Short's absence. Jack Clifford given the open side's role. Sometimes we get too bogged down in 6 and 7. They tend up doing each other's job anyway, don't they, at various points during the game?
Yeah, they do, and certainly take the responsibilities. They've both got a job to do now on this side of the scrum.
Set!
Big Leinster scrum. Jack McGrath being compressed inwards by Collier. Wouldn't have done a certain amount of disruption, but Heaslett brings it away, and Boss scores. And from an area of weakness last weekend, the scrum, Leinster pounds first try-wise.
Well, he just thought that with Collier coming up and Jack McGrath coming up, that the referee, Roman White, might have blown the whistle one side or the other, but he wants the game to play on. Look at that, both props just come up there. He's holding it in. Jamie Heaslett does fantastically well to bring it across to the right-hand side. Picks it up and feeds Isaac Boss. Tikaratuma has to step in. I think Jack Clifford may have just got caught onto that scrum.
It's funny as well, we kind of wonder how do some scrums dominate at different times in the game. It's more often than not, it's because it's 8 guys scrummaging against 6, because the flankers have to have that ability to play off, and they're not lending their full body weight to their prop. And that was definitely one of those circumstances where Clifford was thinking about pushing off, and Leinster were able to scrummage as an 8.
And the man who got to start this evening ahead of Owen Redden, Isaac Boss, setting up this conversion opportunity for Madigan. It's a tough one. Right beside the touchline, a bit of a breeze kicking up, blowing in from the docks. And slices across the front. The 5-point score is all they'll get, but that's more than enough for the time being.
We'll just see the replay there. Jack Clifford just gets held in a little bit at the base of the scrum, just for a split second. That's all it takes. That's called experience.
Taken again by Ruddock, who continues to catch the eye. Kevin McLaughlin was part of the warm-up this evening, but not playing tonight. No Sean O'Brien still, or Shane Jennings either, those two still injured. Penalty, Harlequins against Mike Ross.
Yeah, Mike Ross penalised for coming in the side, but again it's the work of Dave Ward, the hooker. Just gets himself in over the ball, just putting a little bit of doubt in the mind of the referee, and Ross has to come in. Watch this, initially it's a good carry, goes through Marlon Yard, but look at Ward just staying in there. So effective over the breakdown.
If you feel comfortable, we keep going.
His body height as well, you know, he missed him first time, and that's why he had to start dragging him. You miss that opportunity against the likes of Dave Ward, and he's going to be on that within a second. The referee only needs to see him for a second too, pulling at the ball, and that's a certain penalty.
That was regulation. 30 metres in front of the posts, hooks it. Leinster still 8-0.
Well, I was about to say a nice little settler for Tim Schweel in front of the post, exactly what you need, but
Thanks, Andrea.
not sure who their other kicking options would be.
Watch them in training, Danny Kerr. Watching them in training and seeing who fancies themselves as a kicker is an entirely different thing, but based on that, Danny Kerr is Dan Carter in his mind.
Looking at that drop goal that he knocked over last week, a left footer on the run. He's certainly not lacking in ability or in belief in his ability.
He may well be sharpening up the end of his boot. We will see.
Advantage blue.
Lost forward. This is Ryan. Wrestle
Advantage over!
on the halfway. Heaslett linking up with Madigan, who fires it to Gopeth, who has Fanning. Runs into yard. Eventually, Fanning was dragged into touch.
You see, it's
option.
all looks
No
nice
option.
and pretty, but
No
it's a little bit lateral at the moment from Leinster.
Yeah.
Madigan's
option
got a super
made.
little whip pass on him, isn't he?
Line
But you need runners in, just holding the defensive line.
Your players,
I agree, Lawrence, but at the same time, I think we could, from a Leinster perspective, you could certainly look at holding a bit more depth out wide. When he's having to throw the ball that hard and that flat, there's something wrong. And he threw a 20-meter pass; it was almost lateral. So another yard of depth and running onto it, might be something for the boys to think about.
Once.
It's the final 5 minutes of a cagey first half. Here goes Fanning again. Dave Carney not with us this evening because of a sore hip. Try to score a boss. Penalties coming. Madigan to Fitzgerald. The two of them trying to become a little bit more fluent with each other in midfield. Penalty against Nick Easter for not rolling away, we heard Ramon Platt tell us. That business of coming from deep, Brian, and Fanning just being a little bit flat just there on that pass. How do you get that right? Is it just Fanning starting to run a little bit deeper?
I don't even know if it's necessarily Dara Fanning. I think was it Rob Carney was second last receiver there. I just think
that one was clear and obvious.
When you're forcing the pass, I found in the past when I was having to throw that really flat long pass laterally, you tend to tug that a little bit and you pull it to the person's inside shoulder. If you have someone running onto it and you're able to throw it out in front, you don't force it that way. Sometimes it's a bit of a mental thing. And Ian Madigan's one of the best passers in that team, but even he is going to, when he forces them like that, and you can see the aggression in his face throwing them, he's going to pull them a little bit, and that inside shoulder is going to scupper you all day.
But also it's having the patience and the confidence when you just to hang that little bit back, a couple of steps back, hold your depth, it's something that players talk to each other about all the time in training, when you're going through the moves in the game as well. Just trust your pace, just have confidence that you're going to make it onto the line, because if you do hit a flat pass like Madigan's at pace, you're going to make a huge impression into that defensive line.
Got good stats, Madigan. Nailing 90% of his kicks in Pro 12, 85% in Europe before this evening.
I sent him a picture of the November series of him throwing one of those passes, and he had a big grimace on his face. I said, imagine how good you'd be if you actually put a bit of effort into your passes. And he sent me a video of a pass he gave me against Munster, just down in this corner down here where I scored a try. And he said, you weren't complaining that day, were you? Touche, son, touche.
Three more points for Ian Madigan. And this is folding out to be a pretty decent first half for Leinster. They lead 11-0.
Well, it is. It's probably as much daylight as we've seen between these two sides in recent meetings, isn't it? Never much to choose between them, and Leinster built a nice, healthy lead. Obviously, they have been helped by the fact that Tim Shrills missed a couple of kicks a goal.
And if he gets a hat-trick, we'll treble them. If you love football, you'll love a bit of Betfred.
At Wickes, the 50% off kitchen unit sale starts soon. You can choose from 28 stunning kitchen styles and all the quality features you'd expect from a leading kitchen retailer, like soft close, curved corners, and solutions to maximise your space. It's got our name on it. Wickes. Book your design consultant appointment for before 28th of December and you'll qualify for another 10% off on top of all our great offers.
Classique, Le Mal, Fragrances by Jean-Paul Gaultier.
People say I'm vain, but staying in shape, it's just part of the job. And to be honest with you, I think I'm more pumped than ripped. 101. 102. In the Aviva Premiership, my young man, you've got to be able to handle yourself. So, we finished? Because after a tough session, it's time for some relaxation.
The Aviva Premiership Rugby season continues next weekend, only on BT Sport.
It is absolutely hopping here at the Aviva Stadium in Dublin, where Leinster lead Harlequins 11 points to zip. The kind of night when you need your kicking boots. Tim Swale still has to find his 2 missed penalties, 2 successful ones from Ian Madigan and a try from Isaac Boss, giving the home team the lead. Just to mark your card, Monday night rugby tonight, that giant England and Saints centre. Luther Burrell will be our guest. BT Sport 2 from 8 p.m. But sit back and enjoy 40 more minutes of fantastic European Cup rugby in the hands of Nick Mullins.
Neither change is to either side at half-time. Little huddle from Harlequins before the start of this second half. And Leinster have stopped the clock. The try-scoring clock. They managed to get one after about 3 hours, but it was a big one. Isaac Boss's score. And they have at times played like a team, particularly Jamie Heaslip, who know they're standing on the edge here. That interview with Craig before the match, and the little notebook that he writes his bits and pieces in at the end of each game to remind himself of the pain in the week following. And he's really taken it out onto the pitch, and his players have followed him as well. Make or break, he called it. The game that matters most, our season. At the moment, Leinster are resuscitating their season, but another 40 minutes for us to enjoy it and for Quins to do something about it. Here goes Gotteth. Gets over halfway. He's got a couple of Quins on him. This is Ryan. Boss. This is McGrath. 25-year-old Dubliner. Gotteth. This is Carney. Spent much of November here for Ireland. Unbeaten here this season for Ireland. McGrath again. Gotteth. There goes Madigan. And runs into a combination of Hopper and Ward. Can't get beyond halfway at the moment. Toner. From Collier.
I wonder, Nick, are they sometimes guilty of playing too much rugby? You know, trying to play through too many phases. Just looking at Marlon Yard's wing, there's a bit of space in behind him. Maybe it's an opportune time to just nudge one in there, settle things down.
And they finally do put the kick in, but it was simply enough for Tim Swale to gather over the head of Madigan.
2! Stop!
That is in midfield, loose for Tikaratuma to run onto. Runs away from the support that was provided by Yard. And she needed the help of Lowe. All to the floor by Cronin. Marler. Oh, Marler's through a gap. Who's up in support? What a position. 15 metres out, centre field. The ball's been lost forward. There's a penalty coming anyway, and Brown gathers, and Brown's under the posts. And they needed the sharpest of second half starts, and the Marler burst and the mazy run from the fullbacks given it to them.
Well, where do we start there? All the Leinster players surrounding Roman Poit saying you've got to have a look at the TMO. He was playing advantage.
Yes.
For an infringement at the breakdown.
With the branding. Just check in a breakdown if 15 blue pulling back the ball, or a Quinn player knock it on. All right?
Okay, I check it.
Well, the ball definitely went forward.
Yeah.
The question is how it went forward, and that's one for Eric Gontier, our TMO.
It was an outstanding little step inside from Joe Marler. You know, he's a prop forward, by the way. Fantastic run by him. Look at this, just steps in. That was a good tackle. Does it go forward? It's hard to see. Or is that Carney on the floor just playing the ball?
Was it Rob Carney? Well, we'll see here. This is the best view. Is it Carney's right arm that drags this forward?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I think so.
The only other question is an interesting one, the grounding of the ball by Brown.
Yeah, he just rips it. I don't think that's a Marler knock-on. I think as he's coming up, he just sort of...
Captain, 15.
He's got his hand trapped underneath, hasn't he, Marler, and he just rips the ball up.
And that was actually Romain Poit's instinct, because he'd given the penalty. He was playing the advantage for what he saw there. And Eric Gontier having one more look. Dominic Ryan's down there as well, but we got one more that this might add to the evidence.
He's ripped it out there. I have to say, I'd be disappointed if I was Harlequins and this was adjudged to be a knock-on. I think the instinct from both Brian and I is that Rob Kearney's played that ball out.
And then it just hits Joe Marler's arm as he follows it through, but...
Well, the other thing we mustn't forget is the incredible piece of skill from Danny Kerr to play on the chip over the top to Mike Brown.
Now, is that coming off Marler's forearm first? That's the best angle.
But the thing is, if it's been ripped by Kearney, it's a penalty anyway, so...
Yes.
I have a decision for you.
Yes.
Knock on.
I agree with you. First of all, I thought the 15 blue pulling back the ball, but I was wrong. By the last angle, I am sure number one, knock it on.
Same for me.
Well, I know we sometimes get criticised for the amount of time we spend on those TMO decisions, but actually it was that critical last angle that took us a little while to find that proved the point.
For all money, if we hadn't seen that one, you would have thought. And looking at the action of Rob Kearney as well, and then you see his face afterwards, he looked like a guilty man. But as you have it, it was actually Marler's error.
No, I was wrong.
And a nice explanation as well from Roman Putt. My intuition told me that it was Kearney who pulled it away, but I got it wrong. Bit of empathy. Not often you hear that.
Still some defensive work to be done by Leinster's scrum.
Crutch! Bind! Set!
Yeah.
There's some hooking work to be done there, and Harlequins are trying to drive themselves over the top of it. Eventually it's smuggled back, but not at some ease. It's actually been stolen away. This is Lowe and Yard. Heaslett couldn't get his hands on it. Accidental. As Wallace ran into his own man. Robson. Quins from the scrum that they won. With a reprieve here. Here goes Ward. Yard against Leinster for Bath nearly 10 years ago, and it was the best part of 8 years since he made his second appearance. Robson may well be the key man here, and he is, but he's been spilt, and Easter was there, but it was not forward off an eager Leinster hand, and Harlequins will be relieved.
Yeah, they will be relieved. Just a little bit, well, it was not a little bit, it was underthrown by Dave Ward, and just didn't quite extend Robson as much as he wanted to there.
Keep your arm down during the play. Thank you.
Just went forward, didn't it? I think Kane Douglas, as Robson was bringing the ball down, just gets a hand in there. Well spotted by the referee, knocks it out.
2. Just to have a good view in the line-out, you have my assistant referee.
Yeah.
You made the mark,
and
you take his mark. All right, you don't move on your side. Okay.
I'm happy with that, sir. But you see that 3?
That's a really interesting one, isn't it? Because it's something that I'm sure we've all spotted. Well, the hooker moving a step to whatever size
every
his
time.
Team's
every time.
Because
I've never heard a referee actually talk to a hooker about it, though.
He's never done it. So, you know, don't choose your own marks, choose the mark of the toucher, but every hooker takes half a step, because the trajectory of the ball when you're throwing it above, you know, your head, you have to compensate for that, you know.
And also that when they're asked for the meter, they're never given the meter. So they'll, if you're giving me a yard, I'll just nudge over a little bit to my side here.
Yeah.
That was interesting. Jack Conan and Owen Redden. Redden, who will bring what Matt O'Connor called a bit of extra tempo into the final 20 minutes, I think Matt O'Connor said, so he's coming on 10 minutes earlier than expected, but that change is being made now, 10 minutes into the second half. Redden on for Boss, who's done his job. He scored the only try.
He's played well, Boss, and he added that physicality which they needed. But you know, we talk about scrummaging. Well, Quinn's won a penalty under the Leinster post just last time out. Let's see what it means this time. They've got to really clear their lines, be nice and accurate.
Set.
It's a solid scrum, which Redden's doing his best to make difficult for Danny Kerr. And a solid scrum, just concertinaing.
Yeah, referee Roman Pite's happy that it just came up, as we see Isaac Boss. Look at that, that's his contribution in the game. Meters made, passes 60.
The mark is there. Same ball.
So he's played over 100 games now, Isaac Boss, and statistics like that keep him fully focused in the coach's eye. Comparable figures, by the way. Danny Kerr's made 23 passes so far. The decision of Poit was that it was the Leinster front row. Mike Ross, little Friends Reunited session in London last weekend, was more uncomfortable than you would have wanted. Up against Joe Marler. A bit more parity in the scrum.
Well, I think Quinn's have, dare I say, got the upper hand at scrum time. It's one of the reasons why Leinster haven't been able to dominate over the two games yet.
Brian.
Sorry to interrupt, Lawrence. Just quickly, if we look to the Joe Marler break, it's actually, I'm not sure whether it's bad defence from Jack McGrath or that his line hasn't come with him, probably a little bit of both. And as a result, Joe Marler's able to identify the dog leg and put himself through the gap. Lovely little show and go, guy that clearly has plenty of football, of seeing his options and playing to them.
Well, we talk about the importance of Cian Healy from the Leinster front row as a ball carrying forward, and Joe Marler very much so for Quins as well. They miss him now. Hopper tackled inside his own 22 by Gopper.
Use it! Stay
Brown.
Quins!
Oh, that was a cruel bounce.
It was a cruel bounce,
just
but
to make sure, hold on.
you know, Quins first of all just tried to move the ball a little bit wider. Hopper decided a better option was to turn inside, and they used that boot of Mike Brown very effectively, and he got the bounce there.
Line for Quins, line for Quins.
Just don't feel Quins have had anywhere near enough possession in this game, really. 34% as opposed to Leinster's 66, and you know, you're not going to. They're defending well, but you need more possession than that to mount a challenge, and especially to bridge this gap between the sides. They just need to put some phases together and spend some time on the ball, you feel.
Suggestion from the touchline that Mike McCarthy isn't far away from joining us. Carney. Here goes Kirshner. Springbok on from the off this evening in the reshuffle that was prompted by Gordon Darcy's withdrawal this week. Darcy nursing a calf injury. Madigan, and again that pass fired off the right shoulder.
Could have been intercepted that if Quins had been on the game.
High risk, high reward, isn't it? They've thrown a couple of those in the game and some didn't go to hand. That was beautiful, but it could have really cost them at the same time.
Fitzgerald. And then Carney caught the ball and Robson at the same time, and to add insult to injury, the ball was forward as well.
Yeah, right idea, just again,
just
delayed the pass for a split second. Just telling Madigan to clean his eyes.
Time off.
I'm just wondering, is ref cam time, and we get to hear some of their one-liners, both of them brilliant in different ways.
Yeah. Man who learned this week that he'll take charge of England and Scotland in the Six Nations.
Well, he's decisive, I have to say. You know, it's.
Where does he stand in the players' popularity stakes, Brian? When you see Romain Poit's name, and you're smirking as I ask this question, but I'm going to ask it.
I think we don't know. I think he is probably considered to be quite a good referee, but at the same time, he is very forthright in the way he referees the game and the decisions that he comes upon. Interesting, a few years ago I saw him carding Paul O'Connell in Thomond Park, which is something, as captain, which is something that was never done. So he's definitely a man that's capable of standing up and believing in his decisions, and that's what you need, strong referees for big games.
Yeah. Eye on this latest scrum.
Not afraid to referee the scrum either. I mean, that was a...
Both front row engage too early, both. Take a gap, support your body weight.
I know a few years ago, referees who came from France, particularly in the old days of amateurism, were always good at the scrum, because that was the one part of the game that really mattered back. You went to a local village match as a ref and got the scrum wrong, you were lucky to get out alive.
They're famous for producing, you know, a conveyor belt of huge front row forwards that, you know, to be honest, they often found the ball a bit of a distraction.
Bind. Set.
It's a clean enough strike. It's at this point that Harlequins have struggled to gain the control, but they don't struggle there. Walking around, Jack McGrath with a questioning face.
I mean, well held in there. Another penalty against Jack McGrath. They're mounting up a little bit, but Nick Easter chose to hold the ball in there. Was the right decision, draw the penalty.
It's hard, it is hard from an outside back perspective again to understand the effect that, and the galvanizing effect that has on a pack when you're able to draw a penalty out like that. You could see it last week with Joe Marler in the first couple of scrums. It had a huge impact on their thought process and their mindset.
Well, I think what it does is it gives you momentum as well. You look, it started with the one under the post, didn't it? And then they got the one under the, you know, in their own 22. Now they've started to get that belief is building and building. And what that's done, Brian, is giving them an attacking platform in the Leinster 22.
Dave Ward standing on the touch judge's mark now, right enough to find Robson. Wallace has it. This is a ball that will take some controlling. Cronin there trying to claw it back, but it is Kerr who finds Hopper. Held onto the ball well, Kerr, and there are real options here. Tikaratuma away to Sweel, and Brown will score. He thought he'd scored 15 minutes ago, he has now.
Well, fantastic. Quinn's really worked that well, because Leinster had defended that initial drive, but look at this line from Hopper that he takes. That's the one that gets the forward momentum. Quinn's did fantastically well, regenerated the ball. Danny Kerr there, he misses out the initial runner, and it's the Hopper line that gets in behind, and after that, it's just a simple case of putting the ball through the hands onto the outside. Really well worked try there from Harlequins.
You're right, Lawrence, and it's the quick recycle from Hopper as well. They didn't actually need to wait for a ruck. He was able to pop it off the ground and keep the phase play going, and that's how Tikaratuma was able to get that offload away.
Well, in all the fuss, it's often forgotten that Mike Brown scored the only try back in 2009 in that quarter-final. Ultimately undone by Felipe Contepomi's 2 penalties, but he's got another here in Dublin this evening. That's his best of the night, and that's a perfect 7-point response. Worth a drink. They're within a point as we approach the hour mark.
I think what happens as we see there is Wallace just attracts a couple of defenders, and as you say, Hopper plays the ball off the floor. The Leinster defenders are then going backwards. Game on.
Leinster replacement that we signposted a few minutes ago has happened. Kane Douglas has come off. Mike McCarthy on. Here's Douglas, pitched up in Dublin from the Waratahs this season. Wallaby international.
Going back to Brian's point around the set piece, you know, that Quinn's getting back into this game. You know, I said possession, but it's really been their scrum that's turned it around. They've got 2 penalties that have allowed them to go up the field down in the Leinster 22 to really launch the attack.
20 minutes ago it was 11-0. Now it's 11-10. It's a barrelling charge from Ryan. Redden, Madigan, Gopeth beyond Fanning, and Hopper was up quickly. He's had a good game, Matt Hopper. He's been very busy in attack and defence. You don't need to draw on the pain of last Sunday to know what this next 20-odd minutes means for Leinster. Lose this, and the 3 times champions are as good as gone this season in the New Look Champions Cup. And that's the loosest of kicks, and it's going to cost them 50+ metres.
Well, I think Jimmy Gopeth was trying to put the ball in behind Marlon Yard, but just skewed off his foot. This has given Quins another attacking opportunity.
Just feel the momentum slightly shifting their way, and Leinster have to be careful. Yes, play smart and play a bit of territory, but at the same time, you know, they have to keep on playing. You know, as soon as you go into your shell and you try and defend a 1-point lead, you're dead.
That impression hardened as well by the feeling that at scrum time, the Harlequins have really just tightened the screw a little bit in the second half.
Well, they have, haven't they? We said it. Just gaining that upper hand, and it's an upper hand they've not had, Nick, in the Premiership, which probably explains the inconsistency in their performances. They've certainly had it in Europe. They scrummaged really well against Wasps earlier on in the campaign, and they're going well again tonight. And credit must go to their staff and their players, because they had a torrid time down in Bath, and this is the same group of players, albeit with Joe Marler back in the scrum.
Richie Murphy is the skills coach.
Crutch! Bind! Set!
Their other coaches, Marco Caputo, the scrum coach, will be watching this area very carefully. And once again, Harlequins holding it in, tempting the penalty perhaps. Low. It's a couple of handy meters. Kerr, keen to get on with things. Tikaratuma took it behind him, and as a result, McCarthy was able to drag him backwards and hold him up, and it's a long way down when you're being held up by McCarthy, but did well to get that ball to ground. And Hopper again, central to Mike Brown's try.
God, didn't they do well to get that back from Tikaratuma? It looked like all money that it was going to be held up.
Low again on a ball that he'd nearly overrun, but it's Ward. Yard's waiting. Lowe's just beyond him. And there's Charlie Matthews as well, but it's Yard who takes the responsibility. Kerr. Clifford with the spin, earning 2 or 3 metres. Marler. It's been a really impressive opening 20 minutes to this half for the Londoners.
Well, just accuracy now we're seeing in the Quins game, just holding on to the ball, putting the phases together. Good, strong ball carriers, getting the support play there.
Tikaratuma, as we go into double figures phase-wise, and it'll go no further. Gathered by Carney. Redden. Heaslip to Madigan. And the lid taken off the saucepan, but not for long.
Quins away!
Kicks into midfield, where it's picked up by Gopeth, and Carney off that left boot spirals the ball on the bounce to Yard. Doing his best to win back possession he'd lost.
He's been quite quiet today, Marlon Yard. You know, he could probably get himself involved a little bit more.
You can see he's frustrated, can't you, Brian? He's desperate to get himself in the game, but
that's what Mike Brown always gives you, doesn't it? Breaking the first tackle, he's phenomenal.
And the ball's been lost forward, however, much to Brown's fury. He's absolutely livid.
Just needed to buy a little bit of time there, and he does it so effectively. But unfortunately, just forces the ball in the tackle, goes forward. Look at that, just beats that first defender. Really needed to do that to put his side on the front foot. He feels the ball was ripped out of his hands.
Time off, one on the ground.
While we have this break, we can have a word with Harlequins coach Mark Mapletoft. word said at half-time, Mark, and the impact they seem to have had so far in the second half.
Yeah, accuracy and keeping hold of the ball, really. We just gave Leinster far too many attacking opportunities in the first half, and we've managed to rectify that and had a very strong first 20 of the second.
Lawrence wants to ask you a question.
Well, just saying the scrum, Mark, you know, I know you worked on it after bar. It's been fantastic and really brought you back into the game tonight.
It has. It was the same last week, Lowell. It was a great platform to work from. As you well know, when you've got that dominance, every time there's a mistake from them, you can put pressure on, looking to squeeze them at scrum time, and then put them under pressure as well. It was a big factor for us last week, and it's starting to come into the game again now. So let's hope we can continue that for the last 17.
Thank you, Mark. Brian, you mentioned Marlon Yard. I think it's fair to say that he's not really popped yet this season in the way that you were expecting one of the big summer signings to pop. He's been there, but not quite where he needs to be.
Yeah, and maybe, you know, it's gone back to early in the year when it was Chris Ashton out-chased him for a kick that seemed like a lost cause. And just those small moments have a tendency to build up throughout a season. He just needs to go looking for the ball a little bit more, in my opinion.
Only pushing.
I guess there's always a style change to get used to, a slight change in language, in accent when you move from one side to another, especially when you're on the wing as well, because it's very easy to get isolated, I'd imagine.
He's only a young guy as well. He's 21 years of age. I was shocked to hear that. It seemed as though, particularly the way he played last year, that he had experience way beyond his years, but he obviously is feeling his way into this team. And I know probably as well, Quins quite haven't played the brand that he thought he was coming in to play, and so maybe he was expecting the ball was going to travel out to him on the wing. It hasn't transpired that way for him, so he needs to go looking for it a bit more.
Just Roman Platt explaining to Jamie Heaslip he's had one too many infringements at scrum time. Jack McGrath really under the pump at the moment.
Confirmation from Romain Poit. These are critical moments, Brian. They are really on the edge here.
Time to be a little bit concerned if you're a Leinster fan here, because there seems as though there's only one team in the ascendancy. And
oh, how clever was that to Easter, linking up with Ward, who fired straight into Kirshner. Move at the front of that line out. Quins remaining inventive. Marla. Sweel. Dummy run provided by Wallace, not used. Kerr claiming that the ball wasn't coming back quickly enough. It's being held up. It's Robson. Sweel. Oh, where's he going? Like a quarterback in the pocket. It's held up by Jack Conan, who's come on. Conan on for Ruddock.
Fortunate there, Leinster, not to concede the penalty.
15 minutes to go.
Charlie
Matthews tells Marlon Yard to get out of the way. He will go on his own. Easter. McCarthy over the top of the ball and very nearly winning it back. And Brown again, it's all Harlequins. It's they who continue to ask the questions. Loose, lost forward, Leinster possession. And Kirshner will hammer it long, and he'll chase after this. And he'll hope that it bounces into touch, which it does. And a moment of real concern has been dealt with, but we're going to have a word with Romain Poit and a touch judge.
Blue, please.
Yeah, Danny Kerr was just asking the referee. Felt one of his players was taken out without the ball.
Let's have a listen to...
He was asking quite vociferously, wasn't he?
Il y a une plaquette sans ballon. D'accord. D'accord, d'un bleu. Fait confirmé par la vidéo. D'accord. Parce que je vois pas du tout le numéro, je suis caché. D'accord. Il y a un plaquage sans ballon d'un bleu. D'accord.
Stéphane Boyer, well, I think you could work that out for yourself. He wants to have a look at the video.
Yeah, I mean...
We suspect a tackle without the ball by
there's no doubt.
players, but we don't have the number on Quins player. Around 15 there. Can I have a look, please?
Well, that's a good spot by the touch judge, because I'm not sure Roman Pratt was going back for that. Danny Kerr was talking to him, saying he was taken off without the ball before I passed it to him.
We think it's Devon Toner. There's a tackle on Jack Clifford.
It's one of those. Would the ball have travelled to Jack Clifford? Well, he never got a chance to find out, did we? So,
is Danny Kerr trying to make the point that Clifford would have been the intended recipient and he was taken out?
Yes, that's exactly what he's saying. I think
okay, Roman, I've got a decision for you.
I have my own decision. It's an early tackle, but 4 with no danger. It's a penalty against 4 blue.
I agree with you.
Can we have the right mark, please?
We just need to find out where it took place now.
We check about the mark.
Such are the margins, aren't they? If you don't make the tackle and he gets the ball, he's in behind you.
You can see as well, Devon Toner only had eyes for was it Clifford? Yeah. He wasn't so much concerned about Danny Kerr.
Penalty without the ball. Time back on.
Goodness me. Goodness me, into the final quarter of an hour. Nothing's guaranteed off a kicking tee placed down by Tim Sweel at the moment. However, every opportunity to move ahead for the first time.
Well, we've had.
Okay. Thank you. You push back, Blue. The mark is there. The mark is there.
Well, everything, even little moments like that from Joe Marler, just increasing the thought in the referee's mind that Harlequins are on top of this.
Well, they are, and he's just stating the obvious. And it's hard to say that they don't deserve this win the way they've played in the second half, or this lead, I should say. Still plenty of rugby left with 13 and just a little over 13 minutes to go.
However, they were 11-0 down at half-time. 26 minutes later, they're ahead in Dublin.
Come on, everybody, let's hear it for Leinster!
And the Dublin boy can only watch and wonder. Well, he said they were going to come here and give it a go. They weren't going to sponge, I think was the word O'Shea used, and they haven't done that. They have given it a blast, particularly in this second half, and that was brilliantly taken from the restart. Tikka Atuma chasing the box kick from Kerr. Comfortably enough for Carney, but Tikka Atuma made it tougher work. He's hurt himself in the challenge. Madigan. Marler with the attempted charge down. Sweel underneath it. He did well initially and then put Yard in possession.
Stay there.
Matthews.
Leave it!
Opted against the clever ball out of the back door.
You stay in front, 7, hold!
Brown.
Onside.
Nick Easter lumbering after this, as is Robson. Taken by Kirshner. Redden. Toner. Link via Madigan to Gopeth. Will this go all the way back? It will.
Talk about fine margins. For our money, that looked as though it was going to go into touch. 5 metres out. Leinster, great field position, and continues the bounce of a rugby ball. You never know what's going to happen. Look at that. Scrum back just outside the Leinster 22.
3 on the floor, time off.
And it's exactly what they don't want, is another scrum, really, Leinster at the moment.
This is what it looks like at the moment. 2 games to go in January. Leinster at home to Cast here, Quins at home to Wasps. And then the final weekend, Casts against Quins, Wasps against Leinster at the Ricoh. But as things stand, the 3 times champions, Leinster, will have to go the long way round to the quarterfinals. This might do them if it stays the same.
Quins have just saved their best rugby, haven't they, for Europe? They've really put together much more consistent performances.
Like Quins,
Danny Kerr look a good player tonight as well. Look really sharp, and when Quins are going forward, particularly in this second half, he's been pulling the strings magnificently well.
By the way, Wasps against Cast tomorrow. Claremont Munster, Scarlets Ulster, that's a worrying sign. Rhys Ruddock with his arm in a sling. Leinster have got Connacht in the Pro 12 before Christmas, and then the big St Stephen's Day game at Thomond Park.
Crutch!
Those two games will take some getting up for, though, if they can't arrest this situation. 10 minutes to go.
Easter just digging the ball out.
Use it!
Referee wants it used.
Kerr with Lowe offering himself, bites down the middle. Kerr again tries to keep the wheel turning. Ward will do just that. Runs into Gopeth, and Fitzgerald was there as well, trying to hold the ball up, and as a result, the pair of them have managed to dislodge the ball forward. There goes Redden in some space.
Great defence from Marlon Yard there. He bought himself some time, made on Redden throw the pass early.
And then the penalty, and Redden's really upping the impetus here as Leinster need to. Gopeth to Madigan to Fitzgerald. Little burst from the hooker, Cronin. And they've taken the ball 50-60 metres, and now it's they challenging around the 22. Madigan. And now it's Harlequins who need to beware the penalty. And it's Harlequins who concede the penalty.
Yeah, fantastic. 2 tap penalties from Owen Redding. Matt O'Connor asked for a little bit more pace, a little bit more intensity from the scrum half, and really quick thinking from him on 2 occasions. Just caught Harlequins. Look at it. This is the first one.
You have a shot? Yeah.
Well, he said that he'd bring some tempo when he came on. That's just what he's done there.
Well, it looks, on that first one, it looks as though Phil Bennett wants his dummy back. It was something that we haven't seen for a few years, but I've seen that in training on numerous occasions, and when he winds it up that way, many's a forward has bitten on it, so whoever that was, don't feel too bad.
It's confirmation of the Quins change in the back row. Joe Treyfoot on. But this may well be the key moment in the match to regain the lead. And not just to regain the lead, the roars around the Aviva will tell you that it's a kick to reignite their European season, to keep them alive. Leinster back ahead, 8.5 minutes to go.
Ironically, came from a turnover at the breakdown from Jimmy Gopeth. I think it was a bit of Madigan as well at the same time.
Big restart. Well taken by Fitzgerald. Didn't just win it, he then won 10 metres. Dominic Ryan.
Good space in the backfield if they can go early off Jimmy here.
Well, Gopeth hoists it high instead. To Brown, whose try brought Harlequins right back into this match. And here's the new man, Treyfoot. Experienced little like this so far in his short professional career. Hopper. Tikaratuma saw the run come, and then he had to hold himself back.
Leave it.
Clifford. Sweel, Brown. Leinster can try and calm things down with their own throw at the line out.
Yeah, Mike Brown clearly trying to keep that ball in play. A little bit of cramp there. It's really come alive. Just that one score either way just gives the momentum back to the other side. Leinster took the kick-off, had a real spring in their step. Still anyone's game.
Let's go!
McGrath back into the line-out, and it was he who helped lift Heaslip high into the sky, but Tikaratuma has it, and Brown and Yards calling for it.
Great kick chase there. Didn't give any options to Brown other than to put the Garryowen up, and now they've regained possession.
And now they have a penalty. The eddies and flows of this match, it swirled around over the course of the 73.5, 74 minutes, and at the moment it's just swirling in Leinster blue, you sense.
Well, it's just one turnover, wasn't it, in the 22? A couple of tap penalties took Leinster right up to the within striking distance, forced the penalty and just nudged them ahead. They'll be looking to pin this as far as they can into this bottom right-hand corner and just try and run as much of the clock down as they possibly can.
In the meantime, Harlequins have made a change. Ross Chisholm has come on and Mike Brown has made way. Just perhaps fresh legs, the zip that Ross Chisholm will add from fullback. It's been 3.5 years since we last saw him play in Europe. And he's got about 5.5 minutes to make an impact. Mike Brown's try might not be enough to win here in Dublin. Still so much to play for. Jack Conan winning the line out.
No, leave it! Leave
made
it
an impact off the bench last weekend. Tona amongst those coming in trying to dislodge the ball for Redden to use. Gopeth above his head. Fitzgerald was offering himself, but in the end he was just a man to latch on to Kirshner. Heaslip, you saw his interview with Craig before the match. You'll know exactly what this meant, and it's been stolen by Ward. Leinster throwing bodies in to try and win it back, but it cares to play with. Hopper, Matthews, Yard, Chisholm's up in support, tackled by Fanning. Tapped through by Cronin, and then Ryan was there quickly. Just half a second, half an inch, but they're being won by Leinster.
Yeah, so the ruling is if it's in the scrum half's hands, but what is that now? Because referees are saying they have to pick it up.
Yeah, that's the...
So that's the ruling.
Yeah,
if it's in your hands, still on the ground, that's not good enough. That's not perceived to be in the scrum half's hands.
You're offside if it's on the floor. As soon as he lifts it up, then he's fair game. But you know, that's a fine margin.
Take the line.
Look on the face of Jack McGrath suggests running to the touchline is about as much more as he can offer. He's given everything. Michael Bent is on, and
you come forward. Sorry. He's
there was Ward.
The mark for you.
With perfect timing to steal it back.
I'd say Jack McGrath's probably had a bit more rugby than he'd envisaged over the last couple of months with Cian Healy out. Obviously, we're playing a huge number of the internationals. He's not used to playing 75 minutes.
It was a line-out shot straight down the middle for Will Collier.
It's old school.
Yes.
That didn't go where it was supposed to, but it ended up on the right side, as they say.
It worked. Sweel to Low. Leinster mounting a defensive wall within the Harlequins' 10-metre line. Into the final 5 minutes.
Yes.
Treyfoot takes the ball on. It's been lost forward. It's been lost forward.
Oh.
Is that Dominic Ryan who's on the floor?
Jimmy, don't.
And
I have to say, I'm not a big fan of going up to referees telling them what they did do and what they didn't do. It's just, we're all grown men out there.
This is only favouring one team as well. Leinster will be happy enough just to settle things down, let the referee have his word with both captains, and then reset.
There's no question that Dominic Ryan was the one who came out of it worst. No, listen to this.
9 et un suivi du 12 bleu.
D'accord.
Ensuite, il faut que tu regardes juste après le geste du 5 sur le 7 bleu.
D'accord.
C'est important parce que je suis caché, mais il y a quelque chose qui se passe ici là aussi.
D'accord.
Donc ce qui est sûr, c'est qu'il y a coup de poing du 9 en premier.
D'accord.
Suivi du 9, du 12 bleu.
Donc tous les deux se rendent les coups de poing.
Voilà, exactement.
Et ensuite on vérifie sur le 7 bleu.
Le 5.
Danny Kerr on Ian Madigan.
Getting a lot of numbers here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. 9 on 12,
yeah.
and then 5.
Can we check the first act by 9 queens punching 12 blue? Gave a back afterwards, and can we check about the 7 blue if something happened on him?
Okay, we began with 9 queens.
Yeah, we begin by the scuffle, and afterwards we check if we have an angle on 7 blue, please.
Okay, we check.
I think it's fair to say, Nick, whoever this goes against, I mean, if it's Leinster, that's the game really for them.
Oh, it's Madigan initially on Kerr, and it was Madigan who came through.
Well, actually, what's happened is that Mike McCarthy's got Danny Kerr's leg, and when you hold someone's only leg, I think Danny Kerr's thrown the ball at Mike McCarthy, quite rightly, because he said to him, listen, you've got hold of my leg after the whistle.
There's a couple landed.
Yeah. I mean, you could argue that the first one came from Madigan on Kerr.
Yeah, where did the row start? Is it with a ball throw? Is it with Madigan on Kerr? Or is it the couple that are landed on the ground?
Is it McCarthy lifting the leg?
Well, it's all of that. It's all of the above, isn't it? It's a
brave referee to give it against Leinster. It's a tough one, isn't it, Nick? Because when your leg's been lifted off the ground, I mean, you know.
It's the battle of the high and tight haircuts there on the ground.
It's a very close call as well.
For this week, I'd just give it to Madigan.
Check on if you have an angle on.
It's okay. Charlie Matthews and Mike McCarthy recreating the famous Johnson-Delalio moment.
Yes.
So
I think you've got to forget what happens on the floor. That, you know, it's what starts it really for me.
Well, the decision. The afters on the ground is
this, yes,
incidental.
This one, yes.
There's nothing in that.
Well, let's see what they
so
have
Roman,
to say.
You have no more?
We are looking for.
Okay.
Keep it.
From the start, I'm telling you what I saw. 12 blue grabbing head on 9 queens. 9 queens punching him in a second time. That's correct?
See another.
We've got one more replay that I think might add to our understanding of what started this.
Marlon Yard doesn't look overly fussed.
He's saving himself for the next round, isn't he? Yeah.
No.
I think they're looking at this Charlie Matthews. It's hardly an eye gouge.
And these images are going on the big screen around the Aviva, which is the reason for the reaction amongst the 40-odd thousand.
There's nothing in that.
Saturday night scenes in a big city centre.
So, I repeat if you like. In the beginning, 9 queens with the ball on 12 blue, with the ball on the head of 12 blue, with the ball, okay? And after, the 5 queens on 7 blue, only with his hand. No punch, nothing clear and obvious.
Close to the eyes?
No, not on the eyes. Not in the eyes.
Close to the eyes.
Just up on the eyes, yes.
Okay. I have my decision. First of all, 12 blue was involved to grab the 9 queens by the head. That's a penalty against 12. Queens gave it like a punch or like a scuffle, doesn't matter. But number 4 queens have hands close to the eyes. That's a yellow card because you are not sure about the fingers on the eyes. All right? Okay. Captains.
Well, at the end of it all, it's Charlie Matthews who's seemingly going to get the yellow.
I think as well, in fairness to Dominic Ryan, I think he's holding his jaw.
Blue.
Sorry, we'll listen to
He grabbed the 9 queens by the head. On the floor, he gave it a punch. Okay? But afterwards, the 4 queens had hands close to the eyes. We are not sure about gouging, but that's a yellow card. That's the last call against queens. Number 4.
So you're doing him for gouging?
We are not sure about gouging.
So what's the pen for? Hand in the face?
Hands in the face, not sure about the gouging. This is the reason why that's just a yellow card, okay? C'est pas le 5, c'est le 4, c'est le grand chevelu. 4 queens.
I think you could hear the irony in Joe Marler's voice there.
Yeah, and also, you know, the touch judge, the TMO's told him it's not near the eyes, it's not gouging.
We are not sure about the gouging.
That could have been lost in translation. Maybe they were better off speaking their native tongue.
Time back on.
Sydney for Harlequins number 4, Charlie Matthews.
It's an interesting point, isn't it? They're speaking in English largely for our benefit, you'd imagine. There's another little subtext to it. However, that's for a debate once the final whistle's gone. 2.5 minutes to go, and the critical decision was the penalty that was Leinster's that they've fired towards the try line, well, 10 metres short.
Leinster will now feel that if they can get the try and, dare I say, convert it, they'll deny Harlequins the bonus point.
Absolutely massive. Couple of minutes and Robson got highest.
Brilliant steal. He's top steals in the Premiership, certainly very close to it.
Kerr didn't get the distance on that he might have wanted. Tikaratuma trying to do his best, but Kirshner running into Ward on the 22. Redden. No question that Redden's arrival added a spark that got Leinster going again. Gopperth inviting Fitzgerald to run onto it. He's only played a handful of games this season, Fitzgerald, but he's played a full hand here.
I don't think... Sorry, Nick, we're not going to see any out the back door options. It's got to be all front door. Make sure it's one pass plays, no silly errors at this stage. You've got to just play one phase up, just one man off 9, off 10. Simple stuff.
Into the final 90 seconds. Leinster where they want to be. Madigan. Gopperth. Fitzgerald again.
Just run the clock down, weren't they? Very...
Kirshner, that was very close to putting Kirshner into trouble, and in the end it did. Final 60 seconds. Chisholm fires long. And they will, well, their only hope now is to challenge at this line-out.
It's been a seesaw of a match, isn't it? All the momentum with Leinster in that first half. A fabulous 20-minute spell at the beginning of the second half brought Quins right back into this game, and one turnover in the Leinster 22 has swung it back in their favour.